Government forces hit Houthi in several areas. Safar oil tanker afloating imminent disaster. Heavy rains hit the country. Welcome to Yemen Today TV from the English News with me, Shaza Abdelbey. The government forces in Al Ga'if frontier caused massive losses to the Iranian-backed militia in terms of lives and equipment. The head of Border Guard Operations, Commander Hadi Hamran, confirmed that government forces targeted a group of Houthi individuals who were trying to infiltrate towards sites in Al Ga'if front in Al Jawf. The government forces thwarted the militia's attempt and forced them to retreat after causing damage to their units. He added that head of operation reflected that the airstrikes were strongly present in the battle, targeting scattered gatherings and reinforcements of the militia that incurred losses in gears and lives. 2 civilians were injured in an explosion of mine planted by the Houthi rebels in road linking between Ma'rib and Jawf governorates. A local source said that the mine planted by the Houthis exploded in a car that was moving along the road. Worth mentioning, the road between Ma'rib and Jawf witnesses a lot of mine explosions that targeted the passing cars, resulting in tens of deaths and injuries among civilians. Like all other frontiers, Al-Dala witnessed another defeat of Houthi militia by the heroic resilience of the joint forces fighters. And in response to that defeat, the rebels resort to its trademark cowardly act, targeting the houses of innocent civilians, which could lead to the death of an entire family. More on that story is within this report.
After days of calm, clashes flared again in Al-Dala, to the southwest of Yemen. During the past hours, clashes with medium weapons as well as artillery started in different areas, such as Al-Fakhir, Habir al-Abidi, and Uthman. The resistance targeted military barracks and gatherings of Houthi militias. In response, Houthi militias targeted populated areas with tank shots and other weapons. One of the tank shots was very close to end the lives of a whole family. It caused large damage in their house. Fear and panic gripped children and women due to the shooting. Failing to advance in Al-Dala frontier due to the strong resistance from the Yemeni heroes, Houthi militias as usual opened their fires from different types of weapons on civilians and populated areas with mortar and tank shellings.
The United Nations Environment Chief warns that the risk of a massive oil spill in the Red Sea is growing daily, as the Yemeni rebels prevent international experts from accessing an old neglected tanker carrying more than 1 million barrels of crude oil. The following report tracks the stand of the United Nations over this issue.
The United Nations expressed its concern over Safar Reservoir in the Red Sea. Once again, the United Nations expressed its concern with the position of the Houthi militia regarding allowing technical teams to reach the Safar ship, assess its condition, and suggest treatments before it explodes and causes an unprecedented environmental disaster. United Nations Deputy Spokesman Farhan Haq considered the recent statements issued by the Houthi militia on the issue of the Safar ship disappointing. He reiterated that the international organization is keen to help Yemen avoid an environmental disaster. However, in response to the militia's demand for a full maintenance of the ship at its location, Farhan Haq confirmed that the United Nations agreed with the Houthi militia by the end of the last year on a plan to assess the situation of the ship to see if its conditions were safe enough to do some light maintenance to help reduce the risks of oil spills. However, the militias are now back and demanding prior guarantees that the United Nations will complete all activities of potential maintenance. The UN spokesman stressed that the ship is in a very dangerous location and the prior guarantees demanded by the Houthi militias before verifying the status of the ship are not possible. Haq added that this is the reason why the November 2020 agreement explicitly stipulated that the first phase be limited to light maintenance activities based on the safety conditions that will be found on the ship. Those steps taken by the Houthi militia to obstruct reaching a solution that prevents the occurrence of an environmental disaster in the Red Sea proves the extent of recklessness and irresponsibility taken by the militia as an essential characteristic for them. On the other hand, prove their lack of interest in the public interest and the damages resulting from those steps taken.
Houthi militias launched a forced displacement campaign against people in Hais, to the south of the Hodeidah. According to local sources that said the Houthi militias forced people out of their houses in the villages located to the east of Irfan Valley. The militias stationed in the houses of the people to launch the terrorist attacks against civilians. In the same time, Houthi militias targeted people's houses and roads in areas to the south of Hais using multiple weapons. The Houthi human rights violation. The Houthi human rights violations to have been a subject of local, regional, and international condemnation. Hundreds of journalists in particular have been killed or sometimes been taken as human shields by Houthis. The following report has more details.
The Houthi militia have been attacking journalists and media organizations in Yemen for years. The country has no freedom of press or expression. It is considered as a major crime and journalists are being threatened, kidnapped, injured, and killed. One of the most traumatic incidents that occurred recently was the death of two photographers, Nabil al-Kaiti and Badil al-Barihi, the kidnapping and torturing of the journalist Asil Suwaid, and the execution of four other journalists. Thabit al-Ahmadi, a journalist in the Yemeni presidency, stated that the Houthis' ideology is suppressing every opinion or voice that opposes theirs, based on ancient religious concepts that see everyone out of their group as an enemy who must be eliminated. The Syndicate of Journalists is requesting to provide a safe environment for journalists in Yemen, calling on all international organizations who are concerned with the freedom of opinion and expression to intensify their efforts to end the war on the press.
Heavy rains overwhelmed different governorates in Yemen, sweeping away houses and leaving residents stranded. The country has recorded its heaviest spell of July rains for decades. Many factors contribute to flooding, but experts say climate change caused by global warming makes extreme rainfall more likely. More details are in this report.
A wave of floods hit a number of areas in Yemen, causing water to block drainage canals. Local citizens complained the government officials did nothing to tackle the problem and asked them to assume their responsibilities as to opening and cleaning drainage waterways, especially that large amounts of water is still pouring. The National Center for Weather Forecast warned Yemenis against being in the courseways of torrents, and car drivers will find it hard to see on roads due to the zero vision. According to the center, rains will continue to fall in different governorates accompanied by thunderstorms. The high mountainous lands in the north of Yemen, from Sada to Taiz and Lahj in the south, will be showered with medium to heavy rains. The rains will extend down to parts to the west of the country in Abiyan, Shabwa, Hadramaut and Mahra areas. The western coastal areas are expected to receive patches of rainfall. The same is expected for the desert areas in Al-Mahra, Hadramaut, Shabwa, Al-Jawf and Marib. The Yemeni Center for Weather Forecast warned drivers in the mountainous steeps from falling rocks due to rainfall. The center warned fishermen and those in the sea from rising waves and disruption of water as a result of speed winds.
Coming next. Yemenis suffer during war.
قدس ثالثتي على منطقة الروضة، استهدف الأطفال الأبرياء اللي يلعبوا في الشارع، بيدعي للسلام يقولوا للسلام يقتل أطفالنا، يقتل أطفالنا الأبرياء.
أنا قلت افتجعت ولا قلنا على واحد صاروخ ثاني، طلعت البيت حقنا. عشان ألعب أنا وأصحابي والصاروخ الطرح.
Welcome back. While no response registered yet from the government side, banking institutions call on the government to take immediate actions to solve local currency drop and end the full strike while people in Aden continue to suffer.
The announcement of an all-out strike and closure of currency exchange companies made by the Currency Exchangers Association in Aden has worsened the economic situation for the citizens. While currency changers view it as the right decision, even if it causes losses and recession for their business. However, others view it as a wrong decision.
Closing stores is not a solution. The solution is to fund merchants to stop them from going to buy currencies from the market, as this will allow employees to buy currencies and start trading it.
As you can see the situation, everything is expensive and the government promised to lower the exchange rates, but the exchange rate didn't come down. Yet the prices are still increasing and the exchange stores are closed. Everyone benefits and the sole victim is the citizen.
The decision has led to serious consequences among the closure of currency exchange stores, considering the currency drop and the rise in food prices, which caused the spread of a black market in line with the trading of the old currency after the release of the currency by the central bank in government facilities.
When in Aden suffer from an absence rise in food without supervision, we demand from the government to return back to Aden to complete its tasks and alleviate the suffering of the citizen in Aden by providing services and payrolls.
Among those, some see the decision to lift the announced strike today is nothing but a camouflage to distract the responsibility of stores owners from the currency drop. Others believe this decision came after making a lot of efforts to contain the economic crisis is afflicting the country.
We have used all possible means of asking the government to intervene urgently to impose an economic strategy through which the local currency will be held at the highest level of the banking and commercial sectors. We made calls and didn't receive any direct reactions, official statements or responses at lowest level. This prompted us to take these measures, which we have warned that we will take repeatedly, and which is to declare a full strike on all companies and banking institutions.
We want a government that bears its full responsibilities towards the citizens in providing a decent life by providing continuous payrolls, by returning back to the country to carry out its task from the temporary capital Aden. We never heard that there is a government that carries out duties from outside the country in the midst of hotels where citizens are dying from starvation.
Decisions are made. Banking stores are closed, and the victim of these actions is the citizen, in the absence of an effective role of the government and the lack of responsibility of some merchants. Muhannad Muhammad, Yemen Today.
The ugly war in Yemen has overshadowed all aspects of life, and people found themselves cornered between the fears of being killed or starved to death. Adding to their burdens is another incredible inflation rate due to the collapse of the national currency. This report sheds the light on the hard life that the people in Abyan city lives in the inflation.
The incredible inflation in Abyan city has added to the troubles of people whose lives are already tortured by this mad war. This comes after the collapse of the national currency, with $100 rate exceeding 1,000 Yemeni riyal in the local exchanges, while the pay scale of the people remain trivial. This, sadly, has coerced some people avoid buying certain basic items and made some others buy nothing as they cannot afford it. As a result, an entire generation of children as well as adults are left prey to malnutrition due to the economic repercussions of this ugly war. And in the midst of this unprecedented high life cost, some activists have started to call for conducting mass rallies in refusal of the government unwise policies, urge the government to instantly act as to curb this monstrous inflation due to the collapse of the national currency, and to ensure people are paid their salaries on a regular basis. Such a great suffering of the common people seems to see no end, since the ugly face of this war is still lurking, and with the government seeming failure to tackle these things in the liberated areas.
The majority of Yemeni people bears the consequences and stands alone, unable to confront the ravages of war, division, and the ongoing economic deterioration. Over the past month, the Yemeni rial has declined against foreign currencies to the lowest rate since the war began in March 2015, registering 800 rialis to the US dollar amid international warnings of further declines. More on that story is in this report.
Where the Yemen rial is heading to? The answer to the question lies within the conflict that escalated about 6 years ago, specifically with Houthi rebels controlling the capital Sana'a. Since then, the rial was not stable. It fluctuated into an upward surge against the US dollar, upping from 214 to a historic 1,000 against the greenback. Economists link the current fall of the rial to the political instability that engulfs the country, along with the failure to resume oil exports and to collect revenues from the state bodies. To help recover the rial, the Yemeni government replaced central bank governors, shut down exchange firms to put an end to the currency speculation, and provided local traders with a dollar. Also, the government floated the rial to bridge the gap between the official rate and that in the black market, and relocated the central bank headquarters from Sana'a to Aden. This, however, was not enough, with the Houthi rebels banning the use of new banknotes printed by the Yemeni government in Aden and refusing to deposit revenues from Hodeidah seaport and taxes into the central bank in Aden. Now what's next? The Yemen rial, according to experts, is doomed to plunge more, with pricing skyrocketing as inflation increases. People in Yemen will find it hard to pay for basic food and services, which could spark protests nationwide.
Here's a reminder of the main headlines. Government forces hit Houthi in several areas. Sulfur oil tanker afloating imminent disaster. Heavy rains hit the country. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching.